One afternoon, a young person from the modern world came to meet the Buddha and asked, "Venerable Buddha, I carry a very perplexing concern. I see people who are not harmed. They are not insane, nor do they hate anyone. They simply enjoy the feeling when everything around them collapses. They laugh. That laugh is genuine. It is their true joy. Why is this so? Where does that joy come from when the world is suffering?" The Buddha smiled, his gaze gentle and kind, and spoke softly. "My child, what you see is a truth, but it is not the only truth. You must understand that the joy a person feels is not always born from goodwill or kindness. It can sprout from other seeds, lying deep in the soul that you have not yet seen. It is like when you look at a flower, you only see the color and the fragrance, but its roots lie deep in the mud. Joy and laughter are the same. A laugh, no matter how radiant, does not always equate to inner peace or serenity. It can simply be a biological reaction, a way for their soul to release itself from the pressure of collective emotion. They are not happy because of the pain of others. They are happy because they see they are not bound by that pain. They are free from the emotional rule the world is adhering to. Do not rush to call them bad. Instead, see them as people who are simply using a different survival mechanism. We will delve deeper together to understand this mechanism. My child, look at the nature of laughter. It is a very natural, very biological reaction of the human body. It is simply the contraction of facial muscles, a small electrical current running through the nerves. But what makes a laugh different is the mind of the person laughing. Your consciousness is what determines the deeper meaning behind that sound and gesture. You see, a young child laughs when touched gently by a kind mother. That laugh is an expression of absolute trust and security. It has no pretense. An adult laughs when they feel power is in their hands. That laugh might be the joy of victory, or it might be the satisfaction of feeling superior to others, even in a small domain. So what happens to the lonely souls, those who stand on the periphery of this world, when they see chaos? They laugh too, but their laughter comes from a very different corner, the need for control. When people witness collapse, a structure falling, a relationship breaking, or a social order shaking, for them, it is the moment when the mask of the world falls away. In a world full of false rules, heavy expectations, these isolated individuals often feel they have lost control over their own lives. They feel adrift, belonging nowhere. But when chaos happens, everything becomes uncertain and unpredictable. In that moment when everything is out of control, a strange truth emerges. They feel they are equal to everything around them. That laugh bursts out not because they delight in suffering, but because they find an anchor in disorder. It is a very personal joy, a silent satisfaction when they see that, at least, they still control their own emotions amidst the scene of devastation. They do not cry, they do not fear, they just observe and laugh. They are using laughter to affirm, even if this world falls apart, I still stand firm, and I choose my emotions. That is a very unusual kind of inner power, my child. It is their way of protecting themselves from being swept away by the collective emotional flood of humanity. My child, you need to let go of the notion that these people are sick or wrong. They are simply operating according to a survival mechanism, but it is out of sync with the majority. In this world, most people are taught to feel empathy. When you see someone in pain, a mechanism in you activates, making you feel a part of that pain. This is how society maintains connection and kindness. But for some, that biological flow works differently. Some people see pain, and their soul feels pain. That is connection. But others, when witnessing chaos, instead of feeling sadness, become excited. That excitement is not due to a rational decision, but due to the very function of their brain. In that moment, their brain releases dopamine, a hormone that brings joy, excitement, and even satisfaction. Normally, dopamine is released when we achieve a goal, are praised, or are loved. But here, it is triggered by the scene of collapse. This is not a moral failure, but a physiological misalignment, like a clock that is set to the wrong time compared to the common time of the whole village. That clock is not faulty, it still runs, but it does not match the normal time defined by society. This unusual mechanism may be how their soul protects itself. If a person has endured too much trauma in the past, feeling the pain of others might cause them to collapse completely. Therefore, the brain chooses an escape route, converting anxiety into excitement. The laugh, in this case, is a chemical armor. It protects the soul from the overload of pain and empathy. It says, I have been through too much. I will not hurt anymore. Instead, I will choose excitement no matter where it comes from. Therefore, do not rush to conclude they are evil. They are only people who are carrying a physiological reaction that is out of tune with social norms. They are not intentionally defiant. They are just trying to survive in the way their body allows. My child, listen to this word of mine. It will open up another perspective. When this world unites and agrees that this is suffering, this is a terrible thing to avoid, there will always be individuals who feel a very special kind of joy. That joy is not malicious glee, but a feeling of liberation. They are happy because they see they are not bound by the emotional yoke that the majority is wearing. They stand outside the circle of common suffering and anxiety. In their minds, the act of not feeling the pain of others is a valuable freedom. You must understand that empathy is sometimes a very heavy burden. It forces you to carry a part of the suffering of others, making you tired and exhausted. Those who laugh when the world collapses are finding freedom from that burden. They are not laughing out of wickedness. They are laughing because they are free from empathy. Imagine a person forced to carry a heavy rock throughout their life. When that rock falls, even if it causes a loud noise and dust, the first thing that person feels is relief. Their laugh at this moment is the laugh of mechanical liberation, not spiritual liberation. For them, the collective suffering of the world is the clearest proof of the limitation of human emotions. They see weakness when people are too easily hurt, and they are glad that their soul has found a way to become tougher, unmoved. They do not intentionally hurt anyone. They are just celebrating the fact that they have succeeded in separating themselves from the collective emotion. This is a defense built very long and very strong in their soul. Therefore, do not rush to label them heartless or cruel. Understand that the freedom from empathy is the path some souls have chosen to survive in a world they feel is too heavy and too artificial. My child, outwardly, society looks at them and calls them abnormal because their behavior goes against the norm. But if you take the effort to look inside their soul, you will see that everything within them is unfolding according to a very private, internal logic. They have their own system of reasoning, a way of seeing the world you might not have considered. They say, I did not cause this suffering. I am merely the observer of it and find it fascinating. This is a very clear distinction between the causal agent and the observer. They exclude themselves from the role of participant, of responsibility, and choose to stand in the position of a researcher, an appreciator of a great life drama. For these people, the collapse, the breakdown, is precisely the only truth that is not false. Think about it. In everyday life, people wear countless masks. The mask of happiness, the mask of success, the mask of kindness. Everything is painted, covered up, made artificial. But when a disaster happens, when a crisis strikes, all those layers of paint peel off. The falsehood is erased, and only the raw truth remains: panic, fear, and disintegration. For those who laugh in chaos, this is the moment of absolute clarity. Finally, people cannot pretend anymore. They see a beauty in the honesty of collapse, a beauty not concealed by any social rule. Their inner order lies in the fact that collapse is inevitable. I accept that inevitability, while others are still trying to deny it. They do not wish for the world to suffer more. They are simply feeling comforted when a truth they have long predicted finally occurs. Their heart does not empathize with others, but it harmonizes with the principle of impermanence of all things. That laugh is a nod to the truth. Everything will eventually dissolve, and in that dissolution, there is a release. My child, every human being seeks meaning. That is the deepest instinct of every soul, the reason to wake up each morning and continue walking this earth. However, the path to finding that meaning is vastly different. Some choose the path of finding meaning in joy. They build, they heal, they cultivate goodness. They look at the blooming flowers to believe that life is worth living. They choose the way of healing. But others choose the path of finding meaning in collapse. They look at the wounds, the wreckage, the dark patches, to believe they have understood the true law of the world. They choose the way of staring directly at the wound. Both of these paths, though opposed, are ways a soul is trying to understand the world. The one who chooses healing believes that life is most important, and restoring order is the purpose. They use their hands to repair. The one who chooses to stare directly at the wound believes that truth is most important and collapse is the undeniable proof of impermanence. They use their eyes to observe. For those who laugh at chaos, they are finding satisfaction in the confirmation of the law. They have seen the truth of death, loss, and change for a long time, and when disaster happens, it only confirms what they already knew. Their laugh is a nod. Yes, nothing is permanent. They do not run away from the wound, they walk straight into it. They do not want to rebuild a false order. They want to understand why the old order collapsed. In that act of staring directly, they find a kind of bitter wisdom, a type of meaning reserved only for those who are no longer afraid of the naked truth. It is like a scientist looking at a failed experiment. He does not cry because the experiment failed. He rejoices because he has learned something about the limitations of matter. This laugh is acceptance. Acceptance that this world is not perfect, not fair, and everything can break. And in that acceptance, they find a strange peace, a peace that comes from no longer trying to hold on to things that are destined to be lost. Remember, these two paths do not define who is good and who is bad. They only define two different ways for the soul to connect with reality. My child, people living in society often have to abide by countless unspoken norms and rules. These rules are sometimes good, helping to maintain order, but sometimes they turn into thick masks, concealing the truth and the heart of people. I call that hypocrisy. When a society becomes too heavy with pretense, where everyone must pretend everything is fine, pretend I am happy, or pretend I deeply care, some souls feel intensely suffocated. At that moment, the laugh at chaos is no longer a mere biological reaction, but it becomes an act of defiance. It is a voice resounding among the silent crowd. These people do not laugh because they want to destroy the world. They laugh because they want to destroy the mold. They want to prove that all the norms society is worshiping can be cracked. When the world grieves according to a set script, people expect you to grieve accordingly. But that laugh is a declaration. I refuse to follow this script. I will choose my own reaction. That is how they break the grip of what is called proper behavior. For them, only when society is in chaos, when everything collapses, is the truth exposed, and do the masks finally fall. They see the absurdity of trying to keep everything perfectly forced. They laugh to point out that stubborn adherence is ridiculous. The mind that chooses to burst out laughing at this time is not a mind seeking to cause trouble, but a mind seeking sobriety. They do not want to be drawn into the collective emotional whirlpool where human emotions are controlled by media, by prejudice. They want to stand alone like a solitary tree, proving that inner freedom can still exist even when the external order disintegrates. Therefore, that laugh is a defiant affirmation. I am not a puppet controlled by your common fear. I am me. It is not malice, but an outburst of the desire to be oneself in an extreme and unusual way. My child, after all the explanations about biology, freedom, or defiance, you need to see the most raw and painful truth lying deep within these people. I tell you, that laugh is not joy, but emptiness painted with sound. Imagine a vase that has been broken and empty for a long time. When a strong wind blows through it, that vase emits a resounding cry. That cry is not one of rejoicing, but the sound of the void within it. The souls that laugh at chaos are often those who have gone through a long period of feeling meaningless and empty in their lives. They live in a world where everyone wears masks, saying, I am fine, I'm happy, I have purpose. But they themselves feel they have nothing. This emptiness is a silent pain. It makes people crave to feel something, no matter what that something is. Strong emotions, whether fear or excitement, are better than a state of numbness and emotional death. Therefore, when the external world begins to collapse and creates a surge of strong emotion, chaos, drama, surprise, their mind immediately grabs onto that energy flow. The burst of laughter is their way of telling themselves, I'm still alive, I can still feel something. It is not delight at seeing others suffer. It is the satisfaction of seeing the drama they crave finally appear, helping them escape the trap of boredom and meaninglessness of everyday life. That laugh is a kind of dark magic they create to resist their own disappearance. They use the external chaos to fill the internal chaos. Behind that laugh is a plea to be noticed, to have their existence affirmed. When the whole world is in pain, their laughter makes them different, making them the only viewpoint not swept away by the current. In that difference, they find a fragile meaning. At least, I am not one of the crowd. I have a unique reaction. See that laugh as a dried tear. It is the sound of a soul crying out to be filled, to be felt, to be acknowledged, even if they have to use the wreckage of the world as the material for their existence. My child, now that we have explored every corner of that soul, I want you to carry this final conclusion, which is the seed of compassion and understanding. Never be quick to call them evil. The human mind is a vast land, with warm sunshine and storms. You cannot use your eyes to measure the depth of the trauma they carry. The act of laughing at collapse is only a final defense mechanism, a parachute deployed as they fall into an area of turbulent air. They are not evil. They are only people who are seeing the world through a pair of eyes that are not like yours. Each of us is born with a unique filter to perceive reality. Some wear a blue filter. They see hope. They see life blooming. They rejoice when they see the world built, healed, and bearing fruit. That is the joy of creation. But others wear a gray filter. They see decay. They see disintegration as the inevitable law of all things. They rejoice when they see the world burning, when all order is destroyed. That is the joy of the naked truth. These two types of joy, no matter how different, share one core point, my child. They both see that, at least, the world is still alive and still moving. The one happy because flowers bloom, sees life flourishing. The one happy because of fire sees constant transformation and impermanence. Both are ways to affirm that existence is still happening strongly and intensely. Therefore, instead of judging or shunning, offer them a silent understanding. Understand that their inner journey has led them to a place where laughter is the only way they feel connected to reality. When you see that laugh, you do not need to participate in it, but you also do not need to condemn it. Look at them as you look at a flower growing in rocky soil. It is different, it is solitary, but it is still a part of creation. The goal of awakening is not to divide the world into good people and bad people. The goal is to see clearly that everything has its reason, and every reaction is the effort of a soul trying to survive meaningfully in its own way. Let them laugh. And you, continue to seek your own light.